Well, hi, my name is Greg and welcome to my YouTube channel where for quite some time now I've been covering the restoration of my 1949 P3 Rover. And in some of my more recent videos I've been covering a few little adventures that I've had in the now restored P3 Rover. However, I guess you could say it's not looking fully restored right at the moment, and that brings me to what this video is about. In this video I'm going to cover some of the upgrades that I've done to the engine cooling system. Some that I did, let me think, probably about 2 years ago now, and some that I'm currently working on and attempting to finish now. In this video, I will go into a fair bit of detail in regard to what I did, why I did it, and some of the many problems that I had along the way, in the hope that that will be helpful to anybody else who's contemplating similar work. But before launching into that, I'll just give a little bit of background information to this aspect of the restoration work. So when I was initially restoring this car, I simply removed the radiator, had it cleaned out, pressure tested and put it back in. Perhaps somewhat naively thinking that if it worked okay back in 1949, it'll work okay now. And it wasn't too bad, but what I found is that the engine tended to run a little warmer than I'd like, which brings me to stage one of the cooling system upgrade that I did about 2 years ago, where I fitted this electric fan. So we can have a closer look at that now. Well, this is my fan I fitted to the car. Well, I originally did the fit about 2 years ago now. This is a Revotech 14-inch or 350mm pusher blower fan. And by that I mean it's pushing air into the radiator as opposed to a fan mounted on the other side, which would be sucking air into the radiator. There are a couple of reasons why I chose a pusher blower fan. One, it's quite a bit easier to fit on a P3 Rover. And two, once the radiator grille and the chrome surround are back in place, it's very inconspicuous. In fact, most people wouldn't notice that it was there at all. And this fits with my overall aim of trying to preserve original appearance as much as possible. This fan is a so-called slimline fan, so it's quite a slim profile, which again sort of makes it easier to fit because there's no real risk of it interfering with the grill when you put it back on. There's plenty of clearance between here and the grill. It's also pretty power efficient. It draws about 10 amps when it's running, which is better than some of the other options that are out there. I had all sorts of fun and games fitting it. I've used a so-called universal bracket that I bought at the same time that I bought the fan. And originally I had this setup that you can see here on both sides, with a tab going through here and then sort of bolting into the radiator frame. And I had that on that side. But when I came to fit the grille, what I found is that it interfered with the grille, and I wasn't able to put it on. So I had to come up with a different solution here. So in the end, I've opted to rivet it on. I was pretty lucky in that the rivet holes here miss the cooling tubes, although not by much. So I think that's worked out pretty well. I've drilled a few extra holes in it as well, just to help with airflow. I maybe could have made those a bit bigger, but anyway, I think it'll work fine. Now, there are a couple of other components that also need to be installed to make this fan work properly, and we can look at those now. The first part we're going to look at is the electronic fan controller, or the ESC, which I'm pointing to now. I bought a positive earth version, as my car is still positive earth. It's basically an aluminium tube with the EFC built into it. The EFC has a temperature sensor, and it's possible to adjust the temperature at which the fan cuts in simply by turning an adjustment screw, which is located under this cover. I'll show a photo of the instruction sheet that came with the fan so that you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see in the left of the photo here the EFC and how you adjust it. I've got mine set to cut in at about 86 degrees. So when you order this fan, you basically order it as a kit, and you need to specify what diameter aluminium tube you need to have here to suit your own application. I ordered a 35mm diameter, and that's worked out just fine. There is one other major component to this fan installation. So if we follow these connecting wires, and we'll have a look under the wheel arch now. Now, as we look under the wheel arch here, you can see that there's a grey junction box, It's a sealed junction box where I've mounted the relay unit, which is an important part of the fan installation. Now, the reason I've gone to the trouble of mounting it here is I'm attempting to preserve the original appearance of the car as much as possible, and in this location it's pretty much out of sight, out of mind. I'll just show you a photo now of the relay unit so you know what I'm talking about. So inside the junction box I have a relay unit that's marked in this photo. Also in this junction box I have a connector strip so that I can reconnect all the wires that I had to cut in order to fit the relay unit in this location. We'll have a look back under the bonnet now. Really the only way you're going to know that I've got an electric fan is when you look at this temperature sensor really, but apart from that it's looking pretty original. Now the cooling fan definitely helped, but what I found over time is it seemed to become a little less effective to the point where the fan had to run nearly all of the time in order to stop the engine from overheating. And under more demanding driving conditions, if it was a warmer day or if I was doing a bit of hill climbing, the engine temperature tended to creep up into the low 90s. Now I think it's pretty fair to say that the P3's cooling system was barely adequate for Australian conditions even when it was new. Having said that, you could probably say that about just about any car of this era. And also in the case of my car, there were a few cooling tubes blocked off on the original radiator core, which didn't help matters as well. So I decided I had to do something further. So I was lucky to find what I would describe as an old school radiator and repair business not too far from where I live. So I had a discussion with Steve from Goff's Radiator and Mechanical. Made a decision to recore the original radiator with a more modern design of radiator core, which has been done now. Now let's have a look at an original P3 radiator and a recored P3 radiator. As you can see, they do look a little different. What I have here is a spare radiator from a P3 Rover, which is original. It's not been changed in any way as far as I know. And what I have here is the recored radiator from my P3. Now, as you can see, if you look closely, there are some differences in appearance. The main differences are, if you look at this one, an original P3 radiator core, and this one, a recored P3 radiator. There are more cooling tubes in this recored radiator. In fact, there are 35 more cooling tubes in this radiator compared to the original P3 radiator. And bearing in mind that in the case of my original core, there were a few cooling tubes blocked off as well. The other key difference is if you look at the cooling fins, they're straight here on the original. And if you look at this modern recore, they're zigzag in shape, which effectively gives you more surface area. Well, according to the literature, or at least the brief research I've done via Google, the modern radiator core design has a more advanced fin and tube design, whatever that means. But I think that covers some of the things that I've already mentioned. It also seems to use quite a bit more aluminium in its construction, which is a good thermal conductor compared to the abundance of brass that was commonly used in the 1940s radiators. You can tell an immediate difference between the old and the new in regard to weight. My recored radiator is a lot lighter. Having said that, the original is quite heavy. It does give you quite a good weightlifting workout as you're trying to remove it and refit it to the car, and a bit of a sore back as well. And lastly, as I understand it, the modern radiator core design also allows for better airflow through the radiator core. So therefore the coolant passing through the radiator both has a greater surface area exposed to air and more air flowing through it, or at least less obstructed air flowing through it, which all contributes to more efficient cooling, we hope. So I'm just getting the now recored radiator ready to put back in the car. One of the things I've decided to do is to replace this original bottom fitting that screws on here. I'm going to replace this fitting with a reproduction part that you can see here that I got from Meteor Spares in the UK. The original part is getting a little bit thin on this flange, if you look there, and that's making it a little harder than it was to get a good seal between this face and that face. Now, it's great to be able to obtain a reproduction part like this. However, there's one aspect of this reproduction part that I wasn't that happy with, and maybe I'm being a bit fussy, because it is a good reproduction in most respects. I wasn't happy with how well this hole on the part lined up with the opening here at the bottom of the radiator. There was a bit of misalignment to the extent that it probably ended up obstructing that hole by about 20 to 25%, I would say. Well, maybe I'm exaggerating a bit there, but anyway, it wasn't ideal. So I've decided to try and do something about that. Now, before I explain what I did, I'm just mindful that the system already has a fairly low flow rate through the radiator and through the whole cooling system. Subsequently, I don't want to do anything that's going to cause any obstructions in the system. I want basically it to function as well as it can. So to improve things, or at least in an attempt to improve things, I put a thin smear of this bearing blue over this mating face here, and then I slowly or carefully introduced this part to it using the two bolts to put it in alignment, and then carefully lowered it down and pressed it in position, and then took it off again. So what that gave me then was a witness mark where this hole aligned on this face. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see it here, but I've removed some metal from that edge and a little bit from that edge and a little bit along there as well, and then sort of blended it in with a bit of a radius, so that now we do have quite a good alignment. And to do that, I just used a die grinder with a rotary burr on it and sort of carefully remove material where I needed to. Now, I haven't removed all that much, and there is quite a reasonable thickness of material here, so there's still plenty of strength in it, and hopefully it just gives a more efficient flow through there now. Well, hi, I will wrap up this video in a minute or two, but just a few things I'd like to say before I do that. Now, when I first started making this video, I thought that I'd cover all aspects of the cooling system upgrade in the one video. But would you believe the job has ended up being more time-consuming and complicated than I anticipated? And I think you'd have to say that has been the enduring theme throughout the entire car restoration and even in this post-restoration period now. So what I've decided to do is to divide this cooling system upgrade into several videos. In the next video, I'll cover work that I've done on the water pump and also some other aspects of the cooling system. This isn't work that I originally intended to do, but after I removed the radiator to have it recooled, I noted that I had a small coolant leak from the water pump and also a very slight coolant leak from a tap that controls coolant flow through the heater box. So I thought with the radiator out of the way, it'd be an opportune time to fix those leaks. Sounds simple, but it ended up being quite complicated, and I think I inadvertently made it more complicated than it needed to be as well. Anyway, I'm well advanced with producing the next video, so I hope to have that out quite soon. And also I'll conclude what is now going to be a little mini-series on this cooling system upgrade with a test drive in the car to demonstrate that everything is working as intended. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.